So I'm just going to look through some of the chat questions now. One person is asking a little bit about essentially how to get started with gaming because they're not very confident with gaming themselves, but they want, their son to try it. So they're asking really, how do you really get started at the very starting point? Does something like a PlayStation console tell you what the buttons are? Is there like a practice mode on any of the consoles or anything, I suppose?
Not really. It varies from like the consoles themselves are fairly straightforward to connect up and set up.
Mm,
They don't generally put anything too scary in front of you, and the settings are quite easy to access from the main menus as well. Once you get into the game, each game will have its own, control scheme and set of options that you can fiddle around with. And then once you're actually in and playing it, yeah, it's one of the unique challenges of video games when it comes to making them accessible is that there is such a variety to video games that you can't really apply like a one size fits all solution to
mm.
accessibility. Each game needs its own kind of bespoke, tailored solution to make it accessible. There
If there was, I'd be out of a job. Uh,
Okay, so that's good to know. Um, and
just
then,
also
oh,
with
sorry, Matt.
response to that,
Mm,
when you set up consoles, there is step-by-step guides as you go through the onboarding process, they call it. A lot of them, I'm going to say it, and I'm 99% certain I'm right. If you're setting up a PlayStation or Xbox, you get greeted with the accessibility menus as well. So it will
mm,
turn around and say, would you like to switch the screen reader on? Would you like to enable large text or high contrast mode? These consoles are now designed to when they're initially set up, disabled gamers can set them up themselves. So it should, within theory, and I'm 99% certain if you plugged an Xbox in now straight out of the box, you would be greeted with a would you like to enable screen reader? Because this is kind of what they're doing at Xbox and PlayStation is they're striving to kind of hit these things.
mm.
So there is that with things like where the buttons are on a controller, that's as a person that still struggles with certain I can't game on keyboard and mouse. I always use a controller because I still get lost with my hands or where my hands are visually because my hand and eye coordination is terrible visually where my hands are on a keyboard. I only play with a controller because I can't play on a mouse and keyboard. No matter how much I've tried, I can't learn that. We don't know why, it just happens. But
Mm.
controllers are a lot easier. And if you let your child game, they're going to get frustrated. I'm not going to lie, they're going to have to learn how to do it themselves. And it's about helping them and guiding them. And YouTube is great. In all honesty, YouTube is amazing for things like that. If you don't know how to do it
Like
yourself as a
tutorials and
parent,
stuff.
just go onto YouTube. Yeah, my son plays the Lego games. I can't play them because they're not accessible. I use YouTube to get through the puzzles that I can't work out.
Yeah.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
great tip.
I,
Thank
I
you.
would say as well, just a wee thing to add to that as well. Like popular games establish conventions.
Mm,
So, like, once you get to grips with one game, you'll probably find it's much easier to get to grips with a second game that's in any way similar to it, because game developers don't want to alienate potential players by coming up with some radical new control scheme that would put people off it. So they do tend to like, if one game's really popular and has a button for jump, then like most other games will do that. So it's not necessarily as intimidating the second or third time you go through. Yeah.
yeah, that's a really good point. Thanks, James. Um, Someone was asking to know a bit more about the community, which I think is the gamers community that you facilitate, James, within the RNIB. So that's obviously for people over 18. Are we aware of anything similar for young people? Is there a community at all for under 18 VI gamers, or is that something that's on the horizon, or maybe should
Hmm.
should happen?
I
Yeah, it's something certainly that maybe should happen. I'm not, as someone who's only ever really worked with adults, I'm not really sure like what form that would take for that to be
Mm,
safe.
hmm
Matt, you were going to say something?
I was going to say I don't know anything like that because we, like James has said, we've got a community that we're both involved in. We're on a platform called Discord, which again is for over 18s. So
hmm
it's just about currently it wouldn't be well it wouldn't be in our remit to set something up like that because of safeguarding concerns and things like that.
Mm.
But as a parent, you could join it and ask questions and things. And also, if you do want help with things like that, then it sounds, but look for content creators, maybe like myself, and you can watch videos or things or message us. There is some really good content creators out there that are blind. We'll always be willing to have conversations as well. There isn't, like you've said, James has said it as well. There isn't any Facebook groups I know of, or maybe that's something could look at.
Yeah.
It's yeah,
Yeah,
it's something I'd be happy to help with, but I don't. There isn't really anything out there that screams to me group that's yeah.
I
Doesn't
suppose that
exist already.
the only thing I can think of, and this is getting quite local to where I am, but there may be organizations in your area, like local societies and charities, who run groups for visually impaired children, or maybe have gaming group setups. So, for example, like in Scotland, we have an organization called Triple Tap Tech, and they run gaming groups in Glasgow once a month. And I think they've got gaming groups elsewhere in the central belt of Scotland at different times of the year as well. But they do a lot of work with people of all ages to help get them into, to help the visually impaired people get into gaming.
Mhm.
Um, it's something, I can't speak to whether RNIBs get anything like that happening in the future. It's not, if it is, it's not something I'm a part of or know anything, I would know anything about. But yeah, when it comes to that type of thing, organizations like Triple Tap Tech tend to be where I would refer to.
Mhm.
I've just put a link to a place called a charity I'm an ambassador for called Everyone Can. They've got a gaming center and they have disabled gaming sessions with fully accessible equipment and technology. It's north based, I believe it's based out of Manchester. So if you are in the north part of the country, that's a great place to look at. I don't know of anything in the south at the moment. There was rumors at some point of Everyone Can looking to kind of move and branch out, but that was just discussions. But keep an eye on things like Everyone Can. There's another charity called Special Effects. They all have like these systems and can help with things like this if you're looking for groups of parents maybe that or gaming groups or gaming sessions. I know it's a lot of things they look at. So yeah, them too, but especially Everyone Can if you are based in the north, I would definitely recommend looking at that because they've got a gaming center and they hold sessions. So that would definitely be a recommendation of mine.
Brilliant, thank you. Someone's just asking about the gaming conference as well. Would that be somewhere that, families could go? Is that a
Um,
family event?
it's
What could
more
you
of
tell us a
a
bit more?
industry. I am a part. I'm speaking it. I've spoken at it previously. It's more of an industry event where
Hmm.
people that work in accessibility, work in the games industry, come together to discuss, hold talks, and like it's learning sessions and things like that. It You wouldn't kind of come away going, "Oh, I now know this game's accessible." It's a bit more in depth than that, where there's more direct discussions about how to develop games that are accessible, how the development processes can make games more accessible, user research
Hmm.
processes and things like that. So I wouldn't recommend, it's not something as a parent you'd probably find very useful. I don't know if James would probably agree with me with that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The only thing I would sort of add to it is that, like, attending the conference is I think it's I forget the dates, but it's the last Monday and Tuesday
I
of
should
April. So
know.
it's like the 27th and the 28th, or the 28th and the 29th, I'm not sure. But as Matt says, it is very industry focused. But typically all the talks and presentations that come for it are shortly thereafter uploaded onto the
Yeah.
I'll get this right, International Game Developer Association Special Interests Game Accessibility Special Interest Group. There we go. They've got a YouTube channel, and there's like every year there's at least one or two talks that I feel are worthwhile sharing with our community members, and often talks that I feel like are worthwhile sharing with people that I meet through my work with newly diagnosed people in the community, people who maybe I feel like they have to give up gaming, they're feeling a little bit down in the dumps about the thought of never being able to play games again. And there's certainly a few talks by blind gaming advocates, people like the late Brandon Cole, like Sightless Combat, and these types of people who aren't just playing games, but are involved with the industry. They're making a career out of it, and they're doing
Hmm.
great things. And I use these videos to hopefully inspire people who have developed vision impairment
Yeah.
to believe that they can still continue with their hobby, and they might need to make some adaptations to their equipment. They might need to change some settings, play games on maybe an easier difficulty setting, or rely a bit more on some assistive tech to like maybe read a little bit of text on the screen for them and things like that. But it can be done, and these conferences for the industry show everybody what's actually
The
happening and really sort of
impact.
push the
Yeah.
impact of it. But it allows, by selectively taking some of these videos and sharing them with our community members, it just kind of like highlights some of the key developments and shows people what's actually that everybody's moving things in the right direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. James nailed
Go
it.
ahead, Mo.
No, James nailed it.
I did feel like I'd forgotten what question I was trying to answer at the end there, but I'll just stop talking and then
What is the
we'll
Games
let James
Accessibility
Kieran.
Conference? You nailed it. Yeah.
No, that's brilliant. I think it'd be really useful for us to, you know, get a bit of your guidance maybe on some, if any good videos come out, if you could send them our way and we could distribute
Yeah.
them too. And I like what you said as well about the different kind of VI content creators like yourself, Matt. And you mentioned a couple as well, James, that, um, are online and are talking about gaming, so it might be useful for follow them. Um, and even the young people themselves, if they've got social media, things like that.
Yeah.
So, it'd be good to get a list together of the sort of people to follow as well. Um, I'm a bit conscious of time, but I wanted to just finish on a question. We are asked to give a recommendation of a starter game for a totally blind 11-year-old boy. And we know you've mentioned the Spider-Man game, and it sounds like he might be interested, but is that a realistic kind of beginner game, do you reckon, or is there a different kind of beginner game that you'd recommend?
If the PS5, I wouldn't recommend necessarily going out and buying a PlayStation 5 just for them. If there's one readily available, let them try it.
Mm,
I think that's my biggest starting advice. I know for a fact Spider-Man 2 you can set to story mode. I believe it's called story mode, which is like super duper easy. And that will allow them to it allows your little boy to be able to kind of give it a go and play it. It I it sounds really, I don't know without making it one big cliche, but you got to try it. It's really hard because these gaming pieces of gaming equipment are so expensive, and I know it's really hard to say that you've just got to try it, but it takes, like we've spoken about, like the people like SK, Sightless Combat, Brandon Cole. It took them a while to get used to it. Especially as a blind gamer, it's not easy. You've got to work out how you game yourself. It's like I've said, I'm visually impaired myself. I've spent many, many years playing games, getting frustrated at games. I still get frustrated at games now, and you still have to learn and teach yourself how to play it. It it it's really hard to sit there and go, yeah, they're going to be able to play this, because they might actually not be able to play it, even though it could be fully accessible to someone that's blind, because they might struggle with certain elements that don't quite meet their needs or aren't what they're used to. But again, like I've said, it's about, as a parent, just kind of helping them and guiding them a little bit, even if you don't know it yourself. It's putting something like Spider-Man on story mode. You can look at YouTube videos, watch play-alongs, and try and, yeah, give it a go. I know, it's like I said, it's really easy to sit there and say give it a go when these consoles are expensive and things. But if there's a way, if
yeah,
you've got a family member or a friend that's got a console, just say to their parent, look, would you mind if you came over and tried it? If you've got Spider-Man, we can put the settings on. And like Ellen said, if you've got any questions about things like that, just message me on social media. Just find the Wobbly Gamer. I'm everywhere, unfortunately. You will find me, and just ask questions if you need to.
yeah. He's very, very Googleable as the Wobbly Gamer.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, I mean, I think I share the same view. In our gaming group for Scotland and Northern Ireland that we run on Thursday afternoons. All of the people that are on it who are blind, who have like little or no use of sight, they are all playing games on the mobile devices that they had before they started gaming. And when I encounter people who have no sight and are really keen to try it, I'm very reluctant to suggest that they go out and buy a PlayStation or an Xbox, because it's really expensive
I
and it's
think you
only
could
getting
hear
more
that in my
expensive.
voice. I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah.
like I couldn't in good conscience, and I would take no
No.
responsibility for any purchases made. Yeah, I couldn't recommend it. But there are quite, as I say, there are quite a lot of very accessible games on mobile. Um, there are some games that are so quite basic that I almost don't want to suggest them, but because they're also very long in the tooth at this point. But the Blindfold series of games that are designed by a chap called Marty Schultz, specifically for blind gamers, and they're really simple. You know, like it's things like Blindfold Bowling or Blindfold Racer, and various board games and things like that. And they're like, some of them are free, some of them are cheap. A couple of them have, I think there's like microtransactions in some of them. Like I say that's ways to spend more money in the game. So like, but they are like well known as like an entry point into gaming for blind people on mobile
Yeah.
devices. So they'd be worth maybe looking at and then going from there.
Yeah. There you go.
Brilliant. Thank you. Um, that's fab. I don't think yeah, I think we've answered pretty much every question in the chat, so that is brilliant. So we're gonna wrap up in a second. I know we've talked and shared a lot of different information, and we've named a lot of different um oh, sorry, I'm just seeing
Oh,
another question about
Yeah.
navigating the menu without a mouse. I think you touched on that before, didn't you, Matt?
Um,
Do you have anything else to add?
if you if you've got a controller to hand, try plugging a controller in because the game might work with a controller, which means the menus will then be you'll be able to navigate the menus using the controller rather than the mouse. Um, is it because of the movement of the mouse or the size of the icon in the game? There's a
I
couple of
think
questions.
I'm reading it
Yeah.
as the size of the I and like actually reading the menu. Um, because it sounds like you can use the narration once you're in the game, but it's actually navigating that first menu to.
So Windows games, a lot of games will allow you to enable Windows magnifier. And if you're in a
mm.
menu, you can navigate the menus using that. If not, there is also a really good third-party software I use called Morphic, and that's really good. It's basically a magnifying glass that sits as an overlay, and it works really well. I love it. You can get it to read things out and stuff. Sometimes it works sometimes on programs that doesn't necessarily work with the Microsoft built-in accessibility features. That is literally just Morphic, Morphic, like that. That's how it's spelled. If you Google Morphic magnifier, you'll find the downloadable software. It's phenomenal. I love it. It's so much more user friendly than anything Microsoft have put into their own system so far. So yeah, I would recommend Morphic.
Lovely.
I'll,
Thank you so much. Sorry, James,
I'll,
you
maybe,
can add
I'll maybe
something.
need to try that because that's
I
as
got recommended it last year and I don't talk about it enough. And then I talk to visually impaired people and go, "Have you heard of Morphic?" And they go, "No." And I'm like, "Oh, you need to know about this."
Yeah, but that's the
Morphic's
thing about
great.
like a lot of the people that I speak to in the community, they don't know about
Mm,
Mm.
accessible gaming. They maybe didn't
hmm
realize that there's so much work being done in the field to make games accessible, and there's so much information sharing, not just from organizations like like Look and like RNIB and such, but between community members themselves on discussion boards online or in person at events. It's yeah, Morphic Magnifier. I will need to check that out.
Brilliant. Thank you.